All right, folks, welcome to the show. This is your host, Hunter McWaters. You're listening to the Hunter's Quest podcast, and I'm excited to have a conversation today with Dylan Dowson from ONX Maps or ONX Hunt. As you may or may not know, I just recently started working with ONX officially. I've been using ONX since, I don't even know, probably 8 years or so. I've been an elite member. Well before I even was thinking about doing anything in the outdoor industry or podcast or anything like that. ONX is kind of the standard in terms of maps. If you want to, look at property ownership, you want to look at public-private boundaries. If you want to do any public land hunting, I mean, it's a must. I think probably most of you listening to this have ONX, but if you don't, if you're looking to start hunting out west and you want to turn your phone into a fully functioning GPS on top of a bunch of other great tools, you definitely want ONX. Especially for me, coming from out east, I do a ton of e-scouting, and their desktop platform is also really good. They have great 3D maps, tons of awesome layers in there, and it's just a really, really good company. I met Dylan about a year and a half ago at the expo last year. And he's a great guy. So I didn't really want to do just like a hour-long commercial for ONX. I really wanted to kind of just have an off-the-cuff conversation, get to know Dylan a little bit. He's a great hunter, a great dude. He just had his second child, I believe. So we just talk about life and hunting and a whole host of topics, including ONX. But I promise you, it's not an hour-long commercial for ONX. It's a great conversation, so I hope you enjoy. If you don't have ONX, it's the most rock-solid app out there. It's the best, by far the best mapping software for hunting there is. Like I said, it's kind of the gold standard. So if you're in the market for that, definitely I would recommend it. And I would also tell you to use the code HuntersQuest20. No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. Use the code QUEST20 and you'll save 20% from your membership. So it's a nice little kickback, and then that'll actually help support the show as well. So if you're in the market for maps, ONX is the way to go. I can guarantee you. And use the code QUEST20. You'll save 20% off your membership. Also, it comes with a premium subscription. Comes with a subscription to Huntin' Fool, and they just also acquired Top Rut, which is an application website for draw odds. So they kind of have everything in-house, and they're working to improve that process as well. But really where they made their name is maps, and that's what their standard is. And so definitely if you need maps, ONX is the way to go. Anyway, enough on that. Thank you for your support. I'll probably be just getting back from my bear hunt when this releases, so hope you guys are having a great spring. Hope you got out and did some turkey hunting, maybe some bear hunting. Hope you guys are enjoying. And as I always say, please go ahead and share this with friends and family. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave me a rating and review. All those things are super helpful to keep me going on this quest that we're on together. And lastly, I know I've been mentioning it a lot, but I just want to continue to mention the Hunter's Quest TV show will be launching the last week of June on the Sportsman channel. And probably the easiest air time to catch it will be at 12 noon Eastern time on Saturday. So if you got Sportsman channel and you're have kind of a chill Saturday, I'd love for you to tune in and watch it. I've been working my butt off trying to get it off the ground, and I think it's going to be a really good show. I know it's going to be a really good show because I've been working super hard on it. So I really appreciate y'all's support, and I look forward to continuing this quest together. So thanks again, guys. Enjoy this episode. We'll see you on the next one. All right, guys, welcome to the Hunter's Quest podcast. This is your host, Hunter. Today, I'm here with my new friend, Dylan Dowson from ONX Hunt. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. As we were just chatting, I'm sleep deprived and,
Yeah.
all sorts of different things right now, but doing really good.
Yeah, I was just saying he has a bit of a new dad tired face because you just had a baby. When was that?
It's crazy, man. It seems like it was like a week ago, but it'll be a month. Actually, today it's a month. So a month
Okay.
ago, but yeah, number two for us. And beforehand, I heard everything from you won't even know this the difference from one to two, and then I heard like it is the biggest uppercut you've ever taken in your life, one to two, and I would say it's somewhere in the middle. It's an
Yeah.
adjustment for sure, but we're getting things figured out. He's starting to do pretty good. So
Yeah. How old's your other one?
he'll be 2 years old tomorrow, actually. So
Okay. So
um,
that's pretty close. When we
yep,
had our
yep.
second one, my little boy was like, I think he was 6, something like that, 5, 6.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
So
but yeah, it's
fairly
definitely an adjustment.
self-sufficient.
Yeah, yeah, pretty good. I mean, definitely like out of diapers and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, we're about to have number 3, so I don't know what that's gonna be like. But it's crazy, like breaking out all the baby stuff again. Like, you know what I mean? Like you think you're kind of
Yep.
past it, and then you're getting out bottles and all this stuff. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good though. I mean, life
Yes.
is good. It's busy for sure. But before we know it, he'll be two, and we'll be wondering what the heck happened to the last 2 years. So trying, you
I
do your
know,
best
man,
to not wish time away or
for
take
sure.
anything for granted, but also try not to be, frustrated or like I guess wish time away.
Yeah, there's a season for everything, man, and that's the biggest thing. Like, as I get older and watch the kids, it's just yeah, it's a precious time. It is busy. It's can be tiring. It can be challenging, but like it's also amazing. And you're gonna look back and you don't want to
Hmm.
fast forward through this stuff, you know?
For sure. Yep. Goes quick.
Yeah, man. So yeah, Dylan works at ONX, and I promise you, I did not wear this just for this. I was just wearing this today, my sweatshirt. Yeah, I announced a while ago, but fairly recently, that I started working with ONX officially, and I'm very excited about that because, man, I've been a user of ONX since, gosh, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years or something, like a long time. I think a lot of people. I mean, it's kind of the industry, not industry standard. It's sort of like I don't know, just standard. Like everyone's like, oh, open up your ONX. It's like Kleenex or Coke.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And what part of the cool part about that is like being first to market,
Mm-hmm.
our founder Eric Siegfried, it was kind of his dream and he made it happen. So kind of being first to market definitely speaks for itself there.
Yeah.
Getting a leg up on any competition, but it's actually funny. So I started out in customer service at
Uh
OnX,
huh.
and um shoot, yeah, it's going on like 8 years ago.
Oh wow.
But at the time, like for size reference, at the time I was the one and only customer service rep. So
Oh my gosh.
anybody who called, anybody who emailed, like it all got filtered to me. Now I don't even know, our customer service has got to be 40, 50 people at least,
Oh yeah.
with some seasonal help. So a lot has changed since then, but you saying that just reminded me, it was pretty funny early on. We'd get a lot of emails and stuff like, I thought about this 3 years ago and I wanted to do this and so on and so forth. And like, I wish I did. And you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Lots of good ideas out there. But yeah, our founder, Eric Siegfried, he was just solving a problem for himself, honestly. He's also from Eastern Montana originally, pretty close to where I grew up, and actually where I'm at today. This is not my typical setting, but with the birth of our little one, we're back at home for a couple weeks and
Mm-hmm.
taking advantage of some family help and hanging out and seeing friends
Oh
and family.
nice.
But long story short, Eric is from Eastern Montana. He moved to Western Montana, where he didn't really know where he could go. Like it was, you know, what's private, what's public. You can figure it out. There are maps out there, but he just didn't feel confident. And so what he started doing is he went down and he got all of the plat maps
Uh
and found a way to
huh.
digitize those and format it to fit an SD card and make it work in his
Mm.
Garmin GPS. So he was just solving a problem for himself. And then along the way was like, I think we have something here, that a lot
Yeah.
of folks would take full advantage of and would benefit from. So
Yeah.
hence OnX, and why I'm here today with the company.
Yeah. It's funny because it has a lot of different uses. I mean, when I first downloaded it, the reason I downloaded ONX, however many years ago it was because where I grew up hunting, there's not public land. Like it's, can you get permission anywhere? So just being able to pull it up and see the landowner's name and then try to look him up and call him, like that was like one of the main
Yeah.
functions I got ONX for. And then also just, looking at your aerial photos and God, I remember back in the day when I was a kid, like you had to, like, if you wanted an aerial photo, you had to like hire a pilot to like fly over your property and take a photo. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up hunting a lot of public lands in Montana, but we also, still even after this podcast, I'm going to go out and turkey and shed hunt on some private that we have access to. So,
Nice.
like, it was a pretty good mix for us. But yeah, I definitely have heard of local farmers and ranchers in the area having a plane go by and take photos for them to
Yeah.
use.
That's
So
old
no,
school, man.
it's crazy how things change, man. Because now, like, I won't let the cat out of the bag too much, but we're working with a data provider that will essentially allow us to offer the ability to a customer to say, okay, I want this, 5 square miles or 10 square miles or whatever that looks like. I want an image shot in the next week of this area, and to
Ooh.
provide that. So it's pretty crazy, what technology and really time allows you to do. You don't no longer need to call around until you find a pilot and give him a
Yeah.
camera to go take up into the air.
Yeah. And then now, as I've like transitioned more into Western hunting. In fact, last year was the first time since I was 13 years old that I did not tree stand hunt for whitetails in my home state. I was so busy
No
just
kidding.
doing, yeah, I was just so busy doing Western hunting. When I came home, I would be editing and, I was just gone for 10 days. I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, babe, I'm going to go
Yeah.
sit in a tree stand for 5 hours now. Like, that was not going to fly.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, all I'm trying to say is now I use it for different purpose. Now it's mainly focused on, like you said, finding those BLM lines, those public land, private land divides, and then obviously because I am so far away, I do a lot of e-scouting. So I also use the desktop a lot and the 3D feature and stuff like that. And I've used other mapping software. And I think it is important to use different tools like with Google Earth and stuff like that. But I always kind of go back to OnX because I know it. All my waypoints are in there and it's all there, man. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah, it just works. And like, going back to like 8 years ago when I started at the time, it was the app was out there. People had the app, but honestly, I didn't push it all that much. Being in customer service, when people would call, it was definitely, yeah, check out the app, but technology still has ways to go and we have some improvements to make. But we're really selling a lot of the Garmin GPS chips. So like
Mm.
little micro SD chips, plug into the back of your Garmin. Everyone had one at the time. Fast forward to today, I mean, 2023, nobody has. I mean, if you put 100 people in a room that hunt and maybe a couple still have a GPS,
Yeah, dude.
everybody's got their phones, and with the improvements of technology, I won't put all that on us, but just the improvements with technology, and then we've came a long ways. It went from, yeah, use the chip, use your Garmin GPS with our chip in it, have the app because you can do some pretty cool stuff with it. To today, like, we don't even sell the chip. We
Yeah,
discontinued that product because everybody's got a phone, and the reliability is the biggest thing. And I think that's what really, not to get salesy on OnX, but what really sets OnX apart is like the reliability. When I go out there, it's just going to work.
yeah,
Yes, it's still technology. There's once in a while bugs and little things, but yeah, it's pretty astounding from 8 years ago to when I remember phone calls and being like, yeah, the app's really cool. You can look at all these things and you can customize, but like you're gonna want the chip, because it's reliable and it works. And now it's like
yeah,
the phone is where it's at. It's reliable, it works, and it has more on there and more customization than what 99% of people can even fathom.
yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Does Garmin like hate you guys now?
It's a good question. Well, we
You had to have taken
discontinued
a
the
chunk out of their sales.
Yeah, I mean a major one. We discontinued the chip, so that alone right there will probably, not have people buying GPSs. Like I remember again going back to CS, like people would call and say, "Hey, I'm in Cabela's right now. I'm getting your guys' chip. I've heard all about it, but what Garmin should I buy? Like what does it
Right.
work best on?" So I don't know how many GPSs I sold just based on like,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, well, are you a backpack hunter? Well, then you're going to want an Oregon because it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Do you want to drive around and use it? Then you want a Montana because it's got a bigger screen and it's
Mm.
still durable and everything. So I remember, selling GPSs back in the day
I know, dude.
unintentionally. Here they're buying a $600-700 GPS so they can buy our $100 product, and really they
That's
were buying it for the use of the chip.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man, how much stuff has changed. And I always think like it'd be so cool if you could like well I always think it'd be cool if like you could I don't know, like go to an auction and like buy like all of like Randy Newberg's pins or something, or like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm sure
auction
that
them
I think
off.
I've actually heard of people doing stuff or like someone like they get old and like retire from hunting and they like leave somebody their pins kind of thing. Um,
That'd be kind of fun. Just do like a little treasure map or something. Leave
yeah,
clues behind.
that'd be
Yeah.
hilarious.
Here's
Well,
here's a flash drive.
so going back a little bit, man, because I do obviously want to talk about ONX, but I just want to kind of get to know you a little bit too. Well, first of all, do you remember meeting me like a year and a half ago?
I want to say yes, but I can't put
It
my
was
finger on the
it
time
was
and place, so I'm not going to do that.
no, it was very brief. It was not this expo, but the one the year before. I can't
Salt
remember.
Lake.
Yeah, somebody. Who was it? It was Guy from Western Contours. I'm pretty sure introduced me. We just talked for like 5 minutes, and I got your card. At that point,
Yeah,
I'm still small fry or whatever, but at that point, I was like really just getting started, and I was like, I'm not even gonna ask these guys because like I just like whatever. But anyway, but then when I was getting the TV show stuff together and I was kind of thinking about who I could talk to, and I still had your card
oh yeah,
on it. Yeah. So, but you don't remember that, do you?
that's funny. Probably not, man. I'll be completely honest. I wish I did. You meet so many people at
I
those
know.
expos, and that's one of my biggest faults as a human, and I really need to work on it. Is like, obviously once you meet somebody a couple times or start working with them, like
Right.
heck, we've worked together for a little while now, and I feel like I've met you, and we've hung out and spent a bunch of time in person together just from the conversations we've had. But the really quick meets, especially at
Oh
expos and
yeah.
stuff, where you're
You're
meeting
meeting
like
millions of
a
people.
couple hundred people at least
Yeah.
a day, it's like, yeah, that's something that I need to work on.
No, that's normal, dude. It's wild. Like, um, I tracked my steps this year. The first day of the expo, I walked 12 miles inside the
No
convention
kidding.
center.
That's why
Yeah,
your feet hurt so freaking bad from
I
walking
know.
on concrete for,
Yeah,
put in a solid 12-mile day. There it is right there.
it's not
That's
focusing.
funny.
There we go. Dylan Dowson,
Sweet.
community
Now they're
coordinator.
now they're gonna have my phone number.
Oh, dang it.
It's all
I can
good.
edit that out. I can edit that out. Let me make a note.
No, it's all good. That's
Um,
uh that's funny though. But yeah, actually this year for the first year, I put my sheep feet in just like
ooh.
my trade show shoes, or my shoes I use at trade shows, and like
Mm-hmm.
it made a big difference because I remember years past, you get to the end of like a 4 or 5 day show where you're standing on concrete all day, every day, and like by the end of it, your feet just are. My feet were killing me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with sheep feet, but
Oh yeah, I
yeah, I
got
tried
some.
them out. I got some last year, I think, for the first time, and I was pretty skeptical at first because I did a couple mile hike with them, and it just felt strange to me. I wasn't sure if I was going to like them, but I stuck with it, and I really like them. But yeah, it was a game changer at
Yeah.
at the expo this year.
Yeah, and then like just the being in what's it called? Fluorescent light for that long.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yep.
dude, like I'm feeling nauseous just thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, it's a great show. It's a lot of fun, tons of cool stuff. But when you're like really hustling and trying to meet folks and stuff, it can be intense. But
Yeah.
anyway, dude, yeah, tell me a little about yourself. Like, tell me about where you grew up, like getting started hunting. Just tell me about yourself.
Yeah. So I grew up, as I said earlier, I'm actually in my hometown, actually sitting in the room, my room growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's man, it's a trip down memory lane. But so I grew up in eastern Montana, a small little town called Glendive. I think it's like five, 5 to 7 thousand people or something like that. So grew up over here, and man, I remember my dad, kind of a typical bring up of the hunting stories, but I remember like 4 years old or so, I started going with my dad.
Nice.
I've got a picture with him and his biggest mule deer, and I no BS. Like I remember this like it was yesterday. It's got to be one of my like earliest memories that I can think of. But I was 5, um, and my dad shot his best mule deer to date, like not too far from here, like land that we've always, he's always had permission on. We've hunted and just a super cool, heavy, like 190, low 190s buck,
Nice.
but just a gorgeous, gorgeous mule deer. And yeah, I was 5 years old, and it was opening morning. He had been archery hunting that buck and just didn't get it done. So opening morning a rifle, I remember we got up super early. Like I remember him, getting me ready. I remember driving out there. I remember like hiking through the canyons in the dark and poking our heads up. And that buck, I think he was with like 7 or 8 other bucks and a couple other really nice deer too. But yeah, he shot that deer like 10 minutes into legal light on
Nice.
opening morning when I was 5. And like I said, that's just kind of my one of my like earliest childhood memories. So yeah, I grew up with it,
Was it?
hunting the.
Sorry to
Yeah,
jump
go
in,
ahead.
but was it like a far hike? Like how far did you have to hike?
It was probably, man, at the time it seemed like it. It was probably like a mile or something
Okay.
like that. So nothing too
Yeah.
crazy, but
Is that when you
I
were
remember
like, I want to do this, or was it just kind of like normal, like I'm a kid, whatever kind of thing?
it was cool. I realized the significance of it for sure, especially after we brought that deer to town and everybody was like, holy cows, like, checking him out and super excited.
Yeah.
So I realized the significance, but I remember the kind of the aha moment of like, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. Shoot, then I was probably 10 or 11. It was my first archery elk hunt with my dad. So
Mm.
we grew up mostly rifle hunting, deer, antelope, like what was close, mule deer, whitetail, bird hunting occasionally, that type of thing. Just getting out quite a bit. And then I started archery elk hunting, tagging along with my dad, I should say, when he was archery elk hunting when I was probably 10. And the very first evening that I ever was with him, I remember we were down in this bottom, and there was 3 or 4 bulls just screaming all the way
Hmm.
around us. Like we were just right in the middle of one of those moments where you're like, you don't even really try to explain it because you're like, it's not going to do it justice.
Yeah.
Just incredible. So that evening, I remember we had some close encounters and bulls just screaming everywhere. Saw to this day probably one of the best bull, 360 plus,
Whew.
out of range, just screaming his head off. And I remember sitting there that night, and my dad, he had our gear back then was probably not probably, it was incredibly laughable. But he had this like really old school flashlight with batteries that like as you would walk, they would kind of
Jiggle.
swash in there a little bit and jiggle
Yeah.
and make noise. So he took those out, I think the night before, and they weren't in his backpack. So he realized this as it was getting dark, and we were probably 2, 3, 4 miles. I don't remember exactly, but it was a hike out of there to the
Yeah.
pickup in an area that we had never been to before. This is way pre ONX. I know they had GPSs, but it was like archaic.
Yeah.
I think
And
my dad
like
had
at
one
that
and
point, like
never
only
figured
like
it out.
yeah, and like only like I don't know. I don't want to say rich people, but like not everybody
Yeah,
had them. They were expensive and like new technology.
yeah, yeah. And I think worked about 5% of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remember we're sitting there and he was like, he realized and he's like, oh, we need to get going. And 10-year-old me, again, I remember this like it was yesterday, just being like, no, we can't leave. Like this is the coolest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. We are not leaving. Like, so we just sat there until it was, super dark and just listened to all the bulls and the elk around us and stuff. And that was kind of the moment for me where it was like, okay, this is like incredible stuff that most people, I say most people, we're talking to the ones that do experience it, but that a lot of
I
people
get
won't
you.
experience and just don't understand it. So that probably flipped the switch, especially for archery elk. Like, I rifle hunt, I archery hunt, I whatever is the best for the task at hand. But for me, elk, like it's predominantly archery during elk season, and then once deer season switches, it's you know break out the rifles and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. But yeah, no, that's a little bit, I guess, about background of
Yeah.
hunting and so on and so forth.
Yeah, man. Man, you're definitely fortunate to grow up in that. And not that I'm like jealous because we all have our own path, and I think it's kind of
Yep.
cool also that I've kind of found it as an adult. But yeah, I remember and I've talked about this a bunch of times. But I remember the first time I was like in archery range of a bugling bull, and this was only like 3 years ago, 3 4 years ago, and yeah, it's like a next level, kind of hard to describe. It's a feeling, man. It's like the atmosphere changes. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it is, and like I mean, we always were pretty successful, deer antelope hunting, and just got after it. Like my dad shot several really nice bucks and antelope bucks with me and stuff. But elk was a different story, man. I wouldn't say it's not at all like, I don't live in an area where there's elk, but it was like a 3 or 4 hour drive from where we live to
Hmm.
elk hunting. So it was pretty, far in between. Like I would not consider myself an elk hunter until I moved to Western Montana and like really got after it and hunted them quite a bit. But um, it was such a challenge, and it was just like for so many years, it was like this is impossible. Like how are these guys shooting bulls every year with a bow? Just like it just, I could not understand it. And then, sooner or later, for me anyways, I think there's a couple I don't want to say complete luck, but like the situations unfolded perfectly, right?
Right.
So I shot a couple bulls and it was like, all right. And then you like take that knowledge and then you apply it to the next situation and fail and then apply that knowledge to the next one. And
Hmm.
sooner or later it was just like, okay, like you start going a few years in a row with filling the freezer with elk and like, okay, like I get it now. But man, for so many years it was just like how like this
Yeah.
is impossible.
Yeah, dude. Bow hunting is tough, and yeah, it's so I drew a Montana general elk tag this year, but then I drew another tag, a really good New Mexico muzzleloader elk tag. I wasn't expecting to draw, and so now I'm trying to figure out like how to squeeze in a Montana hunt in there, and let's just say I have a large learning curve ahead of me because I don't even own a muzzleloader right now. I think actually I just ordered one today, so technically I own one. Um,
Good.
and I don't know how to elk call. What else I got stacked against me? I don't know. Lots of stuff. I've never killed an elk, so and I said to myself like, okay, this is my year. I'm gonna kill my first elk this year. And of course, I drew all this like amazing New Mexico tag, and I got my Montana tag. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it all happen. But sometimes you just got to get out there and just try your best, and you might fail, but you just got to learn.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, when I started being more successful, I still have a ton to learn. It's like you never stop learning. But when I started finding
Hmm.
more success, specifically with elk hunting, it was like I was being way too timid before
Yeah.
and not making the moves that you need to make or setting up behind a tree because you're like, there's not much cover around here. Well, that's all great, but if you can't draw your bow, you can't
Right.
kill the elk. So, it's making like there's so many situations I look back on and I'm like, I would have killed so many more bulls or so many great bulls if I like you just think back, you're like, why would I ever think that was a good idea to do? Like, why would I draw then? Why would I not draw when he was there? Why would I call? Why would I not call? Like, there's so many things that, you just don't know what you don't know. And that's what's so cool about it though, is, it's like you, even once you start to get it figured out, you learn stuff. Every situation's different. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even like last year, it was a great year for me, but there was a few things I wish I would have changed in the year before. And yeah, it's a constant learning curve, and I think that's what's so cool and challenging about it. But um, when are you? So you're going to come out for archery or for rifle for Montana?
Right now, it's looking like September.
September.
Yeah.
Copy.
Um, because because I have that other tag in mid-October, and then November I've got plans going to Oregon, and so that's kind of really the only time I have. It's just gonna be tight because I don't want to sound probably sound like such a jerk because I'm like sound like I'm whining about it. It's not. It's like the most
Got
amazing
I've got
problem.
too many elk
Yeah,
tags.
it's like the most amazing problem to have ever. But I'm coming off a really big, logistic heavy Alaska hunt, like the 5th
Mhm.
of September. And then I have this other tag in New Mexico that I really want to put a lot of, energy into it because it's such a hard tag to draw. And then I'm trying to figure out the best strategy for September.
Yeah. No, and you only get so many of them. Like a lot,
Yeah.
you hear that all the time, but it's true. So yeah, it's taking full advantage, and some of those draw tags, man, it's you want to draw and then you end up with too many tags,
Yeah.
which again is first world problems. But
Right. Right.
I try it with like my application strategy, I guess, if you will, is there's a lot of hunts that I swing for the fences on because
Mm-hmm.
it's like if I draw this, it will be worthwhile to sacrifice something else. But
Mm-hmm.
lately I've been trying to like do one out of state hunt a year. So, maybe before kids it would have been two, but it's like just in Montana. I mean, we have seasons
Oh yeah.
constantly. Right now I could be bear hunting, turkey hunting, like
Mm-hmm.
there's always stuff going on in Montana and we have really lengthy seasons. And so, especially if say I draw two other elk tags, if I haven't filled my tag in Montana, it's like, well, what am I doing, going and learning a new area? Yes, it's cool to like explore new areas and check it out, but it's tough when you get a lot of tags in your pocket and it's
Yeah.
again first world, but it's still a situation that you have to manage. So I totally understand.
Yeah, man. And then especially coming from out here, I mean, there's just an extra layer of logistics like coming from the East Coast that makes it fun and challenging.
Yeah, are
So yeah,
you are you driving out?
no, no, man. I did that last year for bear season. 3 solid like 12 to 14 hour days in a row of driving. And I was like,
Yeah,
this no. Like when I got home from that trip, like it was almost like I was injured. Like my legs were all swollen. Like I was like
yeah,
gained a bunch of weight eating like all this fast food on the way home. Like it was terrible. My body was like it
yeah,
really was bad. So and that's like 6 days of extra time away from my family. As we just mentioned, I had number 3 on the way, so it's already going to be a crazy time. So so yeah, I fly and I have friends out there like that I'll ship a bunch of my gear to like
yeah.
a month
That's nice.
before. Yeah, and
Yep.
or like sometimes my camera guys, I'll work out a deal with them where like they'll pick me up at the airport and they'll have like a tent, like on when I went to Montana this year, my camera guy picked me up at the airport. He had a truck, he had a wall tent, and like so we kind of worked that out. That was
Yeah,
nice. So I do my best to like be as efficient as possible, but still I'm flying a lot. So, but hey, like I said, it's worth it. So.
yeah, no, for sure. And that's always the debate. And I haven't driven that far. I guess one time my dad did a archery British Columbia moose hunt. And like
Mm,
that one, it was like 32 hours,
wow.
31 hours, somewhere in there. And that was a pull. But especially if you're coming out by yourself, like
Oh yeah.
that's pretty
It's just
pretty brutal.
mind
So
numbing,
totally
dude.
understand.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
mind numbing. And you want to get there really fast, so you want to drive as much as you can, but I mean, yeah. I mean, three
Yeah.
days of 13, 14 hours in a car in a row is rough. But
That's rough. That makes it nice that you can ship your gear because that's one of the biggest dilemmas. My dad and I are actually right now planning a Texas aoudad hunt, I think in
oh,
January,
nice.
and it's like, I think it's like 25, 26 hour drive down there.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nice to have all the gear that we want. But also then that's 2 days and all
Yeah.
sorts of different logistics. So it's always a give and take. When I went to Alaska 2 years ago, that was the first time I've ever flown on a hunt that I was going on, like that
Mm-hmm.
I was hunting. And so that was kind of an experience of, checking the rifle and
Yeah.
checking the pistol and making
Yep.
sure you got enough gear, but not too much gear. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a pretty interesting trip.
Yeah. I'm like a professional at flying with gear now. That's like my specialty.
Yeah, I was not. I took way too much stuff. I had a horrible habit of doing that. Like even on heck, we were just in Western Montana where I live now and just came to Eastern Montana and I'm like, well, I might want to go look for horns while I'm over there. Well, it's turkey season and I've got access to some turkey places. So I might want a turkey hunt. So I'm going
Yeah.
to bring that stuff. And it's like, I'm going to bring this stuff. And it's just like, you end up bringing, half a pickup full of stuff that you use like maybe one time and you really don't need.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. That's cool. So are you like you're an elk guy? If you had to pick elk or deer, you're an elk guy?
That's a tough one. I really hope I never have to pick. I would say for archery, like if somebody said archery, what do you? I'd say elk 100%.
Yeah.
For rifle, I'd say deer. So like
Okay.
my dad and I were talking about this last night, and it's unintentional. The last like 3 or 4 years, the goal isn't always to shoot a buck. Like I've shot enough deer that I'm looking for the buck that gets me excited, and I'm just not trying to fill the freezer with
Mm-hmm.
deer. Um, but ever since I've been 12, which is when you can legally hunt Montana, I've shot a buck. So, and that those have I've shot a couple with a bow, but I'd say 98% with rifle. And then on the flip side, I've shot two cow elk with a rifle, but every bull that I've shot has been with a bow. So it's like
Okay.
September, and it's kind of nice for me because then it's never like, okay, what am I doing this weekend? It's like, okay, what time of year is it? What's open?
Yeah.
It's September, early October. Sweet, I've got a bow in my hand and I'm, chasing bugles. And then after that, it's like a flip or a switch flips, and now all of a sudden I'm rifle hunting mule deer or whitetail. So, yeah, again, hope I never have to pick, but I'd say elk for archery
Yeah.
and deer for rifle.
Yeah. Yeah, that eastern Montana deer season is just it's
It's
special.
horrible. Don't come up. No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
horrible. It's
terrible.
the worst thing.
It's the
It's the
worst.
worst thing ever.
It's the
No,
worst.
it's cool, man. There's a lot of cool opportunities in Montana. Long
Yeah.
seasons and enough public and opportunities that
Hmm.
that you can get on. It helps if you have a little bit of access just to find that next age class, but there's
Yeah,
there's a lot of nice deer to be found on public.
for sure, man. And yeah, I had a great. That will probably be one of those hunts that stays with me, forever. Just kind of,
Yep.
just it was special,
Now was that the buck behind you there?
Yeah, it's him right
That
there.
one?
Yeah,
That's
that's the one
yeah,
you
that's
saw the
sweet.
episode.
Yep.
Um,
That was
and
cool.
so yeah, man, he's a cool deer. And what was I gonna say? Um, lost my train of thought. But yeah, that was. Oh, I was going to say I was talking. You were talking about the not filling your freezer with deer and stuff, and it just brought up a point that I was doing a show a week or so ago with Jason Matzinger, and he
Yeah.
he brought it up in a way that I've never heard it described before that made a lot of sense to me, and it kind of clicked. It was like he was like, it bugs me when guys go out and shoot a really small mule deer and say, well, I was just for the meat. And he's like,
Yeah.
get a white-tailed doe tag or like a cow elk tag if it's really just for the meat. Mule deer are a really fragile species, and we need those young up-and-comer bucks for the herd, population. And he's like, wait for that big crusty old buck that's maybe not as fertile as he once was, but he's keeping all the young guys off the does and stuff. And so I think a lot of people, myself included, literally until he said that, kind of and I'm not against trophy hunting. I never have been. Like, I understand. I've
Hmm.
never been much of a trophy hunter, but like I understand wanting a big animal. But I never thought about it in that way of you're really doing what's best for the herd and letting those younger bucks
Yeah.
walk, you know?
Oh, 100%. And I know Jason really, really well. I worked with him for years, and
Yeah.
we hunt similar-ish areas and whatnot. And he would say anything that I think way more elegantly than I ever would. But I completely agree with him. Like, it's as a resident, like, first of all, like I don't want anybody to feel like I'm attacking them, as a non-resident coming here, but because I totally understand it's expensive. Like, you get out here, it's $1,000 plus for a deer outtake. Like, it's expensive. You've had your hunt all week, and then you see a younger buck on the last few days. You want to, you've spent your money, spent your time, you want to take a deer home. Like, totally understand. And I don't fault anybody for shooting anything. Like, if you want to shoot something, if it excites you, and or if you truly are after the meat, like, that's great. But yeah, as Jason, I'm sure, alluded to there, it can be frustrating seeing some like really nice potential
Yeah.
2-year-old bucks leaving the state in the back of a pickup, because you're like, man, like,
Yeah.
that's tough. But it's interesting because I kind of went through, I'm not proud of it by any means, but I went through like a phase where I was trying to chase inches and numbers.
Mhm.
And um to be honest, I was pretty young. I was in like high school, and right out of high school I was like, is that deer 170? Is he 175? Like, and it really wasn't trying to chase inches as much as like trying to find the mature deer. But I was probably going about it the wrong way, and I was pretty immature. Anymore, like, and by no means do I have it all figured out now, but anymore, I would be so stoked with like a super old 7-year-old nasty 2x3 buck that's heavy and like just an old gnarly buck. I would way rather shoot that deer that doesn't score anything,
Yeah.
as opposed to a 3.5-year-old buck that's 165, that's not at his prime. So it's I think a lot of it for me was some immaturity and just figuring it out. And
For sure.
but yeah, anymore it's like, what is that deer? Is he 4 years old? Is he 6 years old?
Yeah.
And this year, actually last year, I went to Colorado for the first time, and recently I just got the age back on that buck from his teeth, and he was seven
Oh,
and a half.
cool.
And to me, that was way cooler. Like, he's my best buck score wise and just everything. But
Yeah.
the fact that he was over 7 years old was probably the coolest aspect to me.
Yeah.
And I brought the cape back and everything, and it's like, I don't know, like, I might shoulder mount this buck. It was a super cool hunt, really cool memory. Like, he's a gorgeous deer, and I was still pretty on the fence. And then when I saw, like, that's got to be the oldest buck I've ever shot. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to do it, just because I think that's so cool that he was,
Yeah.
living up there for over 7 years, and, dodging hunters and all sorts of predators and stuff. Like, to me, that's much more cool than the
Yeah.
number of inches he had.
For sure, man. Yeah, I mean, when Jason said that, I was kind of like, oh, I kind of felt bad. I felt bad
Oh
because
no.
I killed my first mule deer this year, and it's not that one. That's my second one. First one was
Yeah.
itty bitty, and but it was, I don't want to like whatever. Like I said, and Jason said it perfectly. There's an evolution as a hunter, right? And I'm still very much
Yeah.
in that evolution process. That itty bitty mule deer buck I killed, it was a different state than where you are, but we were in way back in the backcountry, in a very tough area, very low density. We went like 6 days without seeing a single buck. And it was kind of that thing, we saw a legal deer, and I went for it. And I definitely see how, I don't know. It's tough. Like you said, you got a lot invested. You come on this big trip. You want to come
Yeah.
home with a deer, but I definitely see it differently now. Just knowing it's different from a whitetail. It's a more fragile species. A whitetail, you can kill a bunch of little spikes and it doesn't really matter because they grow like rabbits. But and I don't feel guilty about it. Like I said, as part of that
No.
evolution.
Yeah.
But I definitely will think about it more going forward. But this guy,
But
he was good.
oh, I was gonna say, like, that's a phenomenal deer to shoot. For many reasons, and like that was a very mature deer behind you there. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day too, like, yeah, don't feel bad about that. You or just anybody. Like if that excites you or anybody, like not saying you specifically, but
Right, right,
if anybody's listening and like it excites them to shoot whatever, I don't care if it's a two-bite spike. Like if it excites you, shoot that deer every year for the rest of your life. Like,
yeah,
if it excites you and that turns your crank, like that's by all means, you got the tag. Like, it's super cool. I just the one thing that is frustrating is when somebody does shoot a deer, and I think this is what Jason was alluding to, and they're like, well, oh, the freezer was pretty low, or like, and that
right,
totally understand. Like, if you are shooting for meat, like that part is understandable. But when it's like excuses and
right,
justifications to why they shot the deer they shot, it's like own it. Like, be
for
happy
sure.
about it, be proud of it. Like you, at the end of the day, you killed that deer. Like you ended its life. Like we all understand this, and we eat the meat that we kill and everything. And
Yeah.
but if you're killing something, and this is something I had to go through when I was out of high school, was being once you pull the trigger and you make that decision, like be proud of that animal, be proud of the situation,
Hmm.
and I can think back again, not proud of it by any means, but walking up on a couple bucks that I shot and be like, man, I thought he was bigger. Man, I
Hmm.
thought his back forks were better. Man, I thought he was this, or like, I don't know. And then you think about it later on in life when you mature a little more, and you're like, that's it's horrible. You chose
Yeah.
to kill that deer. It's like be proud of it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, it's cool, and the evolution is definitely there, and I think that's another cool thing about hunting and what we do is it never stops. Like
Hmm.
me 5 years from now is going to be a different hunter in person than me today, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
super cool.
I thought it was a really cool point Jason made. So I thought it was worth bringing up. But yeah,
Totally.
this guy, like, you know, and it's funny you talking about scores and stuff because, and I've mentioned this before too. So if guys listening have heard me talk about this before, forgive me, but it's just interesting. Like, going from my hunting culture and then like totally diving into like the Western hunting culture, which is completely different. It's interesting to like just see the little subtle differences in the culture and like, um, I'm used to you're in a tree stand, you see a deer, you have 30 seconds to decide is he a shooter, and then he's gone. So it's like you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, nice deer, okay, and then you guys, and I'm coming into this a little more. You sit on the glassing knob, you see a deer, you got time. You're breaking that thing down. You're like analyzing, you're dissecting and deciding. It's much less of a knee jerk reaction than
Yeah.
like, oh dang, there's one coming through. Like I got like 1 second to draw on this thing and decide, or he's opportunity's gone. So I think it's interesting. It allows I think maybe to be a little more selective. But
Yeah.
but
I
this
I personally, oh, go ahead, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say like this guy. We saw a lot of bucks, a lot of like you said, kind of those 2.5, 3.5 year old, good looking 4 point. And I went after a couple of them. I'm not gonna like sit here and pretend I didn't. I went after a couple of them, but they didn't work out. But then when we saw this guy, my cameraman, who is a much more experienced mule deer hunter than me, he kind of got excited. And again, this guy, he doesn't. Well, he scored. I measured him. He's 130 inches, but he's only a 2 point. And you could just tell like
That's a pretty big 2 point.
yeah, 130-inch 2 point. But he was you could just tell from his body language. Like all the other kind of bucks we saw were like pushing around 2 or 3 does. He was just sitting on this hillside. He had 7 does and he was just bedded, just like chilling, like not a care in the world. And yeah, when we got up on him, he's got that big, just crazy big Roman nose and really cool deer. So I'm with you there, man.
Yeah, totally. What I was gonna say is I enjoy the process of like picking a deer apart, and it sounds like a trophy hunter thing and this and that, but just like age and what is that deer.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a cool process. Like a lot of times I'll take videos through my spotter and reanalyze them, and
yeah,
it's cool to like unintentionally see the same deer every year, or 3 or 4 consecutive years.
yeah.
Heck, there's one buck that we saw this year, that I videoed. He actually, man, he was really, really looking for some does. My dad and I were walking. We were really close to the pickup, and I think the buck saw movement, and he just started running at us. I think he must have assumed we were does or something, and he ran to like 15 yards of my dad, and then
Whoa.
circled and walked by me at 20 yards. I really, really wish I had my bow at that point.
Yeah.
It was rifle season, but he wasn't a deer I wanted to shoot, but you know looking at that deer, I recognize him because he's got a really cool double throat patch, but he
Mm.
has been the exact same, like antler wise, for the last like 4 years.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
every single year, I'm like, man, that deer next year, like, get a little better, a little bit bigger. I if I find that deer next year, if I know it's him, like I don't care if he regressed a ton, if he's small, like because I'll know at that point he's
Yeah,
at least probably a 6, 7 year old buck. But yeah, it's just interesting to see the same deer kind of
it is.
throughout the years and do that. But I remember to your point of like picking deer apart. I remember like shoot, it's been 3 years ago now. I shot a really, really nice buck. And the year before, I actually spot, or the not the year before, the day before I shot him, I spotted that deer, and I watched him in the spotter for no joke, probably 3 hours. And at one
Mm.
point, he went around this little knoll, and I couldn't see him, so I snuck around to the backside, and he was bedded at like 120 yards below me. I had my spotting scope set up, like just watching him at 120 yards. He was like nodding off, and he would like his head would hit the ground, and then it would jerk back up. It was so cool just watching
Yeah.
him. And I decided like I watched him for like an hour and a half at 120 yards. Could have shot him at any point, and I decided not to. And then I went back home, met up with my dad, and I was by myself at that particular moment. Met back up with my dad, showed him the video, and we got to looking at the video more, and we're like, man, that's an old mature deer, like, and I was kind of kicking myself. So we went back the next day and ended up just being such an awesome morning. And I shot that buck with my dad right beside me, which
Oh,
meant
that's
way
awesome.
more than I would
Yeah.
have been the day prior by myself. But yeah, it's pretty interesting now, just seeing a deer. And if you have time and it is a calm situation, it is really nice to sit and
Yeah.
kind of pick the situation apart and be like, do I want to cut my tag today? Like, is this the right buck to cut my tag on?
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Oh man, yeah. I've sharing that memory with your dad just reminded me. You said your son, your first one's 2.5, right?
Two. So he'll be two tomorrow, actually.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I've gotten my son out a couple times just this year, just on like dove hunt. I took him turkey hunting
Yeah.
one time, and it definitely changes the game. But it's cool, man. Getting the kids out there, he really likes it. But all right. So let's see. I do want to ask a little bit about you guys recently. So you guys own the ONX. I mean, kind of owns in my opinion, the maps game. Um, it's kind of the standard. So, but I know you guys recently acquired Top Rut and Hunting, or you didn't acquire Hunting Fool, but you work with Hunting Fool.
No. Yeah, we've got a really good relationship with Hunting Pool.
Okay, cool.
But yes, recently acquired Top Rut, so draw odds are now in house. It's still branded as Top Rut for now, but that is ONX. So yeah, I mean it's cool, and it's one of those things that mapping is and will always be our core.
Hmm.
It's why I'm here talking to you today is because of our maps. But at the end of the day, like it's not getting easier, it's getting harder in almost every aspect to get tags, especially
Yeah,
for out of state hunters. So it's a necessity that yeah, people can use maps in multiple states, but they have to get a tag first. And if they can't get
yeah,
a tag, then the maps are no good in Colorado if you don't have a Colorado tag. So
yeah.
um yeah, we just saw a need for it and decided to acquire Top Rut. So working on a bunch of draw odd stuff, kind of revamping how that's going to look and feel, and it's going to be really really cool. I mean, it's awesome right now. It's what I use and trust for draw odds, obviously, but lots of work going in on the back end of that thing right now. And
Nice.
then yeah, we've had a really good long-standing relationship with the folks at Hunt and Pool, and from their side of things, like it's more the industry, like the unit knowledge, the
Right.
insight, the yearly annual changes, the changes in tag allocations. Like those folks are just so knowledgeable on that type of stuff that
Hmm.
you know one thing that we have decided that OnX is like our core is mapping. We know mapping. We are experts in mapping. If we're not experts in a certain field, like we're going to work with the experts. So, yes, we can learn, we can hire, we can make that an initiative to go and understand every unit. And if somebody calls us and says, "Hey, I've got 17 points in what Wyoming, and here's what I want to do. Here's the type of hunt I want. Like, instead of us spending the time, energy, money, resources to figure that out, it's like, okay, who is an expert in that field?
Right.
How do we work together? So that's where Huntful comes into play. And yeah, they're super knowledgeable folks over there.
Yeah. I guess you get free access to Hunt and Fool when you have an elite membership. And
Yep.
correct? Yeah. And
Yeah, so you get a free digital membership to Huntful.
okay, cool. I actually used it the other day because when I found out I drew this New Mexico tag, I emailed them a request, and they emailed me back like I think the same day, maybe the next day, but it might have been the same day. Email me back a list of like 6 or 8 guys who had drawn the same tag in the same unit and with their phone number, and so you can reach out and talk to. I reached out to one of the
Yeah.
guys and talked to him, which that's pretty cool. Just talk to somebody who's been there
Yep.
and done that and knows what's going on in the unit, you know?
Yeah, especially because a lot of those, like the one you drew, it's different if it's your back 40 or if it's an area that you hunt every single year. You're going to be a little stingy or really stingy with your information,
Yeah.
even misleading at times, I'm sure. But with those draw tags and stuff, it's like if I'm not going to draw that tag again, or
Yeah. Or with New
maybe not
Mexico,
for
it's a
many
straight
years, like
lottery, so it's like
yeah,
it's almost like everybody has equal chance. So like, there's no real reason to be super stingy about information. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. It's not like you're going to go kill a bull that that guy was going to try and kill next year
Right.
potentially. So yeah, it's a really cool thing that they have. And then, you get the digital membership with your ONX Hunt Elite membership. And then kind of their more top tier all access membership is like you can just call them. And I do this every year before I apply in any state of like, hey, here's kind of what I was thinking. Here's how many points we have. Here's how many points my wife has. She doesn't, with us having a new kid this year, she doesn't particularly want to draw a tag. So we're looking for like a harder to get swing for the fences tag, but
Mm,
also like one that she doesn't have to spend 3 weeks in to be successful. And like
yeah.
you can break out exactly the type of hunt that you
Oh, that's cool.
have envisioned and your points and everything. And they're like, I would look at this unit, I'd look at that unit. Here's why I think this unit would be good for you guys. And, this year their tag allocation went up a few points or a few tags that nobody knows about. So you have a better chance to draw. And like the information and the knowledge that they have on that type of stuff it's pretty mind blowing. Every time I call them, I grab a pen and a notepad and I just like get ready to take notes because it's pretty invaluable information.
Yeah. Um. Okay, so I gotta ask. I know how to use OnX pretty well, but are there any like secret ninja like tricks that you know about that most people don't know about?
And there certainly is. Trying to think if I can come up with one real quick here. It's one of those things that I'm so close to it that to me it's
Yeah.
nothing that's like crazy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's kind of the same with hunting and your information. I was talking to a few people about this in the past, and it's like, you know, especially the guys that get after it every year and like they're shooting, let's just say big bulls with their bow every year. And you ask them what they do, and they're like, I don't know, I just go out and call and I do this and that. Like you're so close to it that you don't realize like the information, you don't
For
realize the
sure.
knowledge that you know about it. I will say one of the cool new things that most people probably don't know. Well, I guess here I'll take 2 steps back. One cool new feature that I think is super valuable, honestly, I didn't think it was going to be this cool of a feature because it's kind of a small deal, but it turned out to be really valuable. Is a quick 2 finger line distance. So I think a lot of people are familiar with using the line tool, tapping
Mm-hmm.
on a point, tapping on another point to get a distance.
Yeah.
Well, now all you have to do is first of all turn it on in settings, quick 2 finger line distance measure. And then all you do is you tap the map on any 2 points with your fingers at the same time,
Ooh,
and it will just drop a distance between those two. So like for
that's
quick
cool.
reference, the problem with the line distance tool is if you want to save it, it's great. But if not, you go tools, line distance, tap the map. Okay, there's your distance. Now
Mm-hmm.
you got to save it, delete it, edit it, whatever. There's a lot of steps to
Yeah.
get a quick distance. So now all you do is, yeah, with both your fingers, tap the map. And last year I used that a ton in Colorado. one particular instance was there was a bunch of fog rolling in, and we could see the private property boundary. We could see the fence, but we had no idea the distance because we couldn't range. And there was
Mm-hmm.
actually a buck that we were, he ended up not being a shooter buck, but we were kind of getting ready like he was, and our rangefinders weren't working
Mm-hmm.
because of the fog. We could see the fence. So on the map, like I just really quickly there, like there's our location, there's the boundary, tap it real quick. You can remove your fingers and look at the line. And I think it was like 400 some odd yards or something like that. But just for quick reference, that one's really cool. And
That's
then
cool.
kind of the bigger one that is pretty new is called Terrain X. So there's a cool subset of features within the computer version right now. So it's not on the phone quite yet. But if you go on web map on the right hand side, it's called Terrain X. If you click
Yeah.
on that, you can now filter by, you could say, okay, I want to see things between 4,500 and 5,600 feet.
Nice.
I want to see only southeast facing, slopes. And I want to see like this degree of aspect
Steepness.
on that terrain. Yep, on steepness. So you can filter all that stuff out.
That's
So
cool.
that's really cool. And then one step further is it's called view shed. So if you click on the view shed icon up toward the top, anywhere that your mouse is on the map, it will show you what you could physically see from that location. So for
Ooh, that's
finding,
super helpful.
yeah, glassing points, shooting locations, it's so valuable to at least get a good idea of, okay, if I park my pickup here, hike up that spine of the ridge 2,000 feet vertical to get to this glassing point so I can glass this bowl in the back of this basin, like, can you even see it? You might get up
Right.
there and based on the topography and everything, you get up there and you can't even see it.
Yep.
Now you wasted all your energy and time. So that is super
That's
cool
cool.
for finding glassing points, and that's something that's pretty new, technology wise to my knowledge, anyways. That doesn't really exist anywhere else. So
Yeah, I'd seen the Terrain X thing, but honestly, I hadn't a chance to really like play with it much. So I'm glad you mentioned that stuff. Um, so you got any cool hunts you're looking forward to this year?
yeah, so far I've struck out on the draws. Didn't draw on New Mexico stuff. Not that I really expected to.
Right.
I was hoping to pull an audad tag in New Mexico. I'm kind of a
Mm-hmm.
little late to that bandwagon. A lot of
Did you
people are
apply
doing
for the
that. Looks
rut
like a
hunt?
really so I applied for three. Um, yeah, one of them was in October, and
Mm.
then the other two I think I did January or February. Um, it'd be cool to hunt them in the rut, but it would be so nice like to hunt them in January for
Yeah.
me, just
Yeah.
timing wise, and it wouldn't conflict with any other hunts. And
Yeah.
it's cold as crap in Montana in January,
Yeah.
and like it'd be nice to get out. So,
Dude, I'm doing the Audad in Texas
anyways,
too in February.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
In
I
West
think my dad and I
Texas.
are gonna go down in January. I think is the plan.
Okay.
Um,
I'm
it's
trying to
one of
time it
those
up so
hunts
I
that
can
like
go and then go directly to the expo just to be
for
efficient.
sure.
But I'm
Yeah,
gonna miss Valentine's Day,
no
which my
that
wife won't like, but whatever.
yeah. I think I missed the last like 4 or 5 Valentine's days because of Expo and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a household norm anymore. But yeah, that West Texas I think will be really cool. It's one of those hunts that it's getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
When I first wanted to do it or talked about doing it anyways, like 3 or 4 years ago, it was quite a bit cheaper. And for the most part, it's not, nothing's getting cheaper anywhere. So it's like, well, while it's still somewhat affordable, we should go do it.
Hmm.
Um, if we would have drawn New Mexico, we probably wouldn't have done Texas, but like we could be playing that game for a while. So,
Yep.
yeah, looking forward to that one. And then just my Montana stuff so far. With that being said, I mean, I applied for Utah recently and got all sorts of other stuff that's out there,
Yeah.
but nothing that I'm really expecting to get this year.
Yeah. I'm like sort of like hoping I don't draw anything else to be honest,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But yeah, I did. I went to so last year I was hunting in Mexico, and then I had like 4 or 5 days between that and the expo, and it didn't make any sense to fly home. So I just got an OTC Barbary sheep tag and spent like 3 days looking for him. I never saw a single one, but I did kind of get like the itch. Like it was a cool
Yeah.
hunt. The terrain was amazing. So I same thing. I kind of was like, man, I want to do this. And so I found a place in West Texas that looks pretty cool. So looking forward to that, man.
Heck yeah.
So
You
last
got any tags that you expect to draw at this point forward?
um no, so my home state Virginia just did their first elk lottery last year. Um so I did apply for that. I don't expect to draw it, but you never know. I mean, that would
Yeah.
be amazing because there's some huge bulls actually. And I don't know. I applied for like Kentucky. I applied like everywhere for like everything. Like,
It's kind of addicting. Yeah, especially once you understand enough to be dangerous. Because the first time applying to a new state, it's like, where do you start? Is it a
yeah,
bonus point state? Is it a preference point? Is it blended? What does that mean? Like,
right.
there's so much, but once you start to speak the language and like understand it, it's yeah, it gets pretty addicting. And kind of the same thing, like, I applied for a lot of tags that I don't expect. I just applied for moose, sheep, mountain goat, and
Mm-hmm.
bison in Montana. It's like I shouldn't draw any of those statistically, but
Right.
I don't know. I've got kind of a weird feeling about a moose tag this year for some
Oh, really?
odd reason.
Well,
It's yeah, so that
dude,
would be pretty cool. But
Jana Waller, she got her sheep tag only applied
yep,
for like 6 years or something.
yep. And
So,
Jason's had two of them here.
oh wow, man. So I mean, yeah, it can
Yeah.
happen. Like I said, good problems to have. But I don't think I have anything else that. And I was gonna say too, like also I've been um, not for a long time, but I'd say this is probably my fourth year of like buying points like pretty much everywhere. So like I'm
Yeah.
starting to get to where like stuff's like starting to click,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a nice place
It's
to be in.
I it's a good thing to do, man. And I think a lot of times people are like, well, you might as well just apply. But if you just get points, then you can apply the year that you know you want to go.
Right.
And like Colorado last year, we had 3 and 4 points, I believe. We put in for a 1 point unit because it
Hmm.
was, and I've learned this, or I'm regurgitating this. It's by no means my information, but learning it from the folks at Huntful, it's like pick the unit, pick the hunt you want to do. Don't pick it far too often. It's like, okay, I've got 7 points. I have to get a 7 point unit because otherwise I'm leaving points on the table and that was money and that was time and like it's
Yeah.
not going to be as good of a hunt. We had a phenomenal hunt in
Yeah.
Colorado last year, phenomenal on 1 point unit. And I guarantee that there was folks a 6, 7, 8 point unit somewhere that it just wasn't the year for that unit.
Yeah.
And we had a much better hunt and experience in a 1 point unit. So it's like I'm good anymore with buying points, spending a little extra money, what whether it's a 2 point unit with 4 points in your pocket, that type of thing,
Yeah.
like because for the most part, you're going to go that year. So
Yeah.
for me, it's worth the extra money and extra couple years of applying and buying those points, knowing like, okay, next year I can do elk in Wyoming. I have
Yeah.
too many, like just for over the counter, you know, elk tag in Wyoming, I have too many points probably. But if I want to go do that next year, I know I can. Like I don't have
Yeah.
to pay extra in the special. I know I've got more than enough to get it. So it's like, I'll gladly spend the extra $100 or whatever.
Yeah. For sure. Was that a third rifle hunt you did?
That was third. Yep. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I've been looking at that. That looks like a fun hunt. Yeah, man. And the thing too is like sometimes those super hard to draw tags are super hard to draw because there's not that many animals there.
Yeah, man. And too, like in Montana, there's only a couple good deer units in Montana. I really wish we managed our deer for a little bit better quality in some areas because we have some really good genetics and really good potential, and we're a very like, opportunity first hunt, which is really cool in a lot of ways. But anyways, long story short, there's a few units that whether it's elk, deer, sheep, anything, it's like even the people who aren't like us and they don't really know, like if you don't really know what's going on, you don't care enough to like really dive into understanding the units, like they know those units. So
Yeah.
they're all applying to those units because it's just like, they might only know one deer unit because that's what everybody else knows and that's
Right.
what they apply for. So that, then that unit becomes exponentially harder because it's the top premier unit. Well, it's not even might not even be that great of a tag, but
Yeah,
everybody hears about it, knows it like by word of mouth, so that's where they apply, and it just makes it impossible. So
for sure, man.
yeah, it's a little bit of research goes a long ways.
Mm-hmm. And there's still stuff out there. I had a amazing antelope hunt this year at a 0.100% draw unit in Wyoming.
Yep.
So you
Yep.
can go out there and have fun. But yeah, the first thing anybody who talks says they're like interested in getting into Western hunting, I'm like, okay, start buying points everywhere now. Just do it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But
And like you'll never chase some of those. You'll never chase down like a 20-point tag, if your preference point. But there's a lot of states that are going to have to change at some point,
mm-hmm.
and who knows when. So like if you have, you never want to spend a bunch of money hoping that they change their system, but at some
Right.
point, like point creep is just going to catch up with itself, and you see it like a state can completely change how they go about things. Like they could be preference point this year. Next year, they're like, everything is bonus points. Like you square them. It's
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of opportunities. Like, yeah, you might never get that 22 point, mule deer unit. You'll never chase that down just starting now, but get some points, and there's some really cool hunts along the way. And
Yeah.
who knows, they might change it someday, and those points are now a lot more valuable.
Yeah. And you're better off with 2 points than zero. Like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but second best time is now.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, dude. Cool, man. Well, I could probably keep talking to you forever, but I know we both got stuff to do. You got a little man to get back to, so yeah. I mean, I think everyone knows where to find OnX, but if you want to give a little plug, like where can people go to download OnX?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best spot just right from the App Store, Apple or Google, just on X Hunt, get it downloaded, try it free for 7 days, and then after that, we got a premium membership, which is a single state, and then an elite membership, which is all 50 states, now has Canada, and then the elite membership is really where all the cool stuff comes in. So,
Yeah,
the
it's
free
worth it.
draw odds with Top Rut, yeah, the digital membership with Hunt and Fool, lots of cool discounts to trusted industry brands,
Yeah.
some really cool exclusive gear and stuff. Like the elite membership is where it's at. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been an
yeah,
elite
if you haven't
member
already, check
since
it out.
yeah, I've been an elite member since before I even thought about a podcast or Western hunting or anything. I just had an elite membership, so definitely check it out. And if you use the code Quest20, save 20%, right?
There you go. Yeah, save $20 right there.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again, dude. This is great, and looking forward to hopefully meeting you again sometime soon.
Yeah, likewise. Let's talk more about that September elk
Absolutely.
hunt. Maybe record one of these over a fire and a big 6 point bowl or something.
That sounds amazing. Let's definitely talk about that. All right, dude. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.